Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore. Wait a minute, this music isn't right, the scene isn't right. Hang on. That's more like it. And now it's time for the show for all creatives. Nevermind the Furthermore. Your source for conversation, inspiration, and fun. With your host, Nicholas Anthony Tockert. He's an artist, a writer, a swordsman, and a game designer. He knows how to use the sword and axe in historical battles without anybody getting hurt too much. He's also the Manatee Man, master of marketing. And he may even have a guest or two. One thing, though, to be certain. Just don't call him a cryptid. With that, it's about time for the show. So sit back, enjoy, and have some coffee and chat with us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm your host with the most, Mr. Nicholas Anthony Tockert, coming at you over the airways on WNTF. Nevermind the Furthermore. Now, before we, see, that won't work. I need to deal with some misbehaving background. We are having a day, friends. That's a bit better. I think we can make that work. Now, before we get into what's going to be a very exciting, I have so much to discuss show with you guys. We got to pay some bills, of course. So first and foremost, we got to put a huge shout out to our own Joe Bachman over at IndieCD.org. The Independent Creator Directory is your one-stop shop for the best authors, artists, creatives. Now, to borrow a term from the guest that should be in later, literary mercenaries, musicians, game designers, and a few others, all wrapped up in this delightful bubble of a platform that you don't have to worry about being deplatformed because some robot algorithm decided that, well, 4 months ago, you made a joke, and we don't like the way it looks. So please support IndieCD.org. It is currently a one-time fee of $10. Gets you an online presence, and that will be going up in the fairly near future. So get it while you can. Get it while you can. Now, we are also made possible by Hybrids, the Sons of Gods, the role-playing game, available over at Fund My Comic. This is the quick play. I still have a few copies of this. We will be discussing in a moment how to get a hold of that. And that's 20% off with secret code Beta 2023 to get through Fund My Comic. Now, friends, if you want to support me, usually you have to go through the following means. You go over to Amazon.com/authors and you find things. Well, what things do you find? Why, the simple sword, the one stop. So you've never touched a sword. You want to go from having never touched a sword to being a proficient swordsman to actually being able to teach. You go right there. The simple spear for when you need to poke somebody a long ways away, and the fighting axe for when you need to get your message across with a little bit of bluntness. Also, Big Zombie Robots, the core rulebook and game. Now, before I bring our guest in, who is here, I see him. We have a few quick announcements, one or two that are a little pressing. I'll be talking about this weekend, and I'll be letting. We'll get to the far more important people, so I need to pop through this rather quickly. Now, let's scroll all the way up here because I've got goodies for you. But let me see if I can get this to show here. Okay. As many of you know, C. Michael Lanning has been in the hospital for a few days so far. If anyone would like to help Nita with gas money to and from the hospital, order food for her kids and other expenses, please donate to her here. It is a huge gobbledygook, but it's basically a special PayPal. What I'm saying here on the top of the show is most of us know Nita Lanning over at Region 2 Network / the Indie Comic Network. Amazing lady. She's worked very hard to help a lot of people. She was there when Luke Stone went down. She was there for Meredith's family. She's been there for everybody. Now, her husband C's having some real medical troubles. If you can find it in your heart to help her, please do so. Now, with all that being said, because I want to put that there. Some channel announcements. We will not be having a scheduled show Friday. That doesn't mean that we won't be streaming. It's just I will be at RegionCon in Maryville the 21st and 22nd. We are almost there. My first big con in a very long time. Basically, since the pandemic, it's really a great privilege and honor to be there. So please come in and show up. You'll be able to buy my games, the miniatures, custom art. I have a whole stack of prints we'll be discussing now, and a little bit. This is a huge deal. Come out. All the proceeds go to, all the profits go to supporting veterans, preventing veteran suicide. I believe through Project 22, projects like Wounded Warrior. There's a lot. It is a charity gaming convention based originally on the dream that Ben Starkey had. Since his passing, for legal reasons, it had to change names, but a whole bunch of the people who worked and made Arcticon the event it was for 12 years, gosh, have come together to keep that dream alive in a slightly different guise. So I hope to see you all there. Now, I have one other set of announcements before I get to our guest who's being incredibly patient. So we're going to go through them real quick. Quick reminder, guys, if you submit ads, please keep them 2 minutes or under. The closer you get to 30 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute, the better. This is not me being a fink. This is I watch the algorithms, and after about 2 minutes, people stop. Like they leave the show. And after 3, we get unsubscriptions. There are a couple longer ones I'm glad to have. I don't want anybody redoing any of their previously done ads. But I had 3 ads get submitted. One was 4 minutes. That's from Jody McPhee. Neil gave me an amazing ad for his Kickstarter, but it's 5 minutes long. So I actually cropped out the incredible short story that he put at the beginning of it because he's a phenomenal author, one of my favorite indie authors. He wrote one of my favorite books of all time, Cryer's Knife, which probably won't be discussed here, but you need to look it up. I'm not supposed to be promoting this, but it needs to anyway. I love this book. It's just so good. It literally is one of my favorites. I'll run his ad, but I'm only asking that because this is an hour show, and I run out ads every 15 minutes or so, and I have to rotate them through a lot because I'm not charging anybody. So I get a lot of ads. So please be considerate. Please keep it on. Also, remember, this is a Safe for Work program. I've received several compliments and a couple people asking, are you staying in that format? So to make sure everybody's cool, yes, we are staying safe for work, even though it can be trying for some of us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Now I'm going to do something far more important than me. I'm going to bring in Neil.
Hello there. How's things
Hi.
going?
This is Neil Litherland, folks. Why don't you tell them about yourself? Because you're going to be more eloquent about it than I am.
If you insist. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that's true. It's very early in the day. But hi, everyone. If you don't know me, you're not familiar with my work, my name is Neil Litherland. You might have seen me online as the Literary Mercenary. I'm an author, RPG designer. For a brief period of time, I was a regional fencer, as Nick is aware.
Yeah, and a very competent one as well.
Well, thank you.
I remember my students. But go on.
And finally, after probably about 5 or 6 years in that part of the profession, finally got my own game together, and I'm trying to get folks interested and get some support for it.
Well, what I think we'll do. Well, okay. Before we get into running the ad, I do want to give a little more perspective because you are being a tad too humble.
That's fair if you insist.
And I love it. It's so nice. You should have to deal with very big personalities. Being a big personality myself, you know, small water, big personality. It's what keeps me afloat. Neil has been writing system generic supplements literally forever. I think you've got what 200, 150.
It's between 150 and 170 at the moment, I think.
Publish things through different means that are random generated tables from everything for who you'll encounter in a game to the settings to it's just I know so many people who have to do the improvisational game design, session design. Being able to have these resources are amazing. So I'm really glad you're out there, and I want to talk to you about your approach to that. I want to talk to you about some really neat things because I'm going to geek out kind of industry here a little
Yay!
bit. This makes me happy. Usually I'm so another sword trainer fell. These things happen. I have an undead office assistant, but she's still on Christmas break, so we'll deal with that. Anyhow, we're going to run the ad. Sorry for the clip because the short story is great, but I don't want to lose people, especially first thing in the morning.
Well, people can always go and find it themselves later.
Oh yes, and I want you guys to find it. We're also I'll skim through the chat real quick, just to while the ad is running, to make sure that nobody has a major life thing that we need to focus on. When I have a guest, it tends to be more guest oriented. Normally, this is a very chat focused show. And before I go any farther, you're always welcome in the chat, and you're more than welcome to come back anytime you're doing something or just bored. We can work something out.
Huzzah!
Because you need more presence. More people need to know. And how is your game publishing it as Hool Games? How is that pronounced?
Azakale Games does a lot of my my more system generic stuff. The particular one that folks are going to see the ad for is through High Level Games, or at least I'm partnered with them to help do the Kickstarter.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to know because I wasn't quite sure, and I have to go through my many commercials, and we will run, or we will not run.
It is a day of technical difficulties. I feel
it is a day of technical difficulties. I was actually up till 2 a.m. I'm sorry, 3:45 a.m. Trying to get some of the stuff fixed. So if you give me just a moment, we will get
Absolutely.
This. It's going to have to update, and it's going to be glitchy because, of course, it is. It is not already here.
This is the
so that's fine. Well, while we're doing that, the premise of the game is an RPG. And I am so sorry because I literally spent hours making sure it was condensed to fit better. It's an RPG built around. So cool. This is really in my bailiwick. Built around the unknown lore of the little plastic army men.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It is
Elaborate, please.
Absolutely. It is probably the first question that anyone ever asks once they hear the premise of Army Men, a game of tactical plastic. Of it's
Yes.
the question of, are you literally playing toys, a la Toy Story, or is this something else? And the meta of the game is that these are all person-sized resinous peoples of made of living plastic in their living plastic world, where they have to deal with all of their plastic problems. But with that said, of like the game has an entire sort of a United Nations of the Plastos Federation. There's all the various countries and their cultures and their religions and all the things going on with that. It is entirely possible for you as a player to look at that and say, that's too complicated. I don't want to deal with this. We're just going to say, this is the meta that the 12-year-olds playing Army Men in their backyard have put together. But at the same time, you can also just embrace that fully and be like, no, this is a weird post-apocalyptic sci-fi setting where plastic has developed a consciousness and is forming its own societies in the wasteland that we have left behind. And neither is wrong. Both are equally fun.
Now, I love it. And one thing I'm seeing from you is there are two consistent, and this has been going on for years, choices you make. You support either system generic games or very independent systems, avoiding the big guys and the OGL complications and all that. That's open game license, which wasn't very. And, for those who have been following the ongoing saga of Dungeons and Dragons trying to kill Hasbro, or Hasbro trying to kill Dungeons and Dragons, and it just backfiring terribly. And the game meta, like the meta for game designers became a whole thing for a while there. Now that it's now that D&D's system is Creative Commons, a whole lot of newbies are coming into the field who've never touched game design, thinking it's going to be easy and they can make a lot of money. And I'm just wondering, one, why did you stay with it away from the mainstream? This D&D and RPG is synonymous. Because I'm really interested in fellow scoundrel. I mean, the individuals who go to a slightly different syncopation when it comes to the march. So please.
So a lot of it, honestly, I felt it's part of the reason folks who have read my various blog posts might think I'm very down on D&D's 5th edition, which is not entirely true. I think it's a very functional game. It's very good, especially as an introduction for people who've never played before. But when you are asked every time you put forth a project, can we do a 5e version of this? It wears on your nerves for a while.
Absolutely.
But a large portion of it is just, I like to have games that is, as you mentioned, big fish, small pond is definitely a thing that you're going to need as a designer. When it comes to actually making money, actually paying bills, you have to look at who's playing what and what are people going to use. And you get a lot more sales out of generic products that fit a certain genre. So anyone running a fantasy game can use this. Anyone running a sci-fi game can use this. Than you do even a really popular product that is game specific, because that game has to have an audience big enough to support it, but also an audience big enough willing to allow third-party content, which is not as common as I'd like it to be, but needs to be when the devil drives. It's easier to just say like no third-party content so that you can give up all of the good stuff while avoiding all of the bad stuff.
Right.
But that's really the question you have to ask when putting together gaming material is, do you want to do more generic stuff? Do you want to do more broader appeal, or are you willing to try and find a more specific audience for something that might be a little niche, but that nobody else is going to be doing?
And it's fascinating to see the paths you've walked, because you're somebody whose career I've quietly followed for, frankly, a very long time. I've known Neil since I was skinny. We'll put it that way. It's interesting because I hear a lot of people give the lines, well, if you're going into self-publication or independent creation, don't do it for the money. You'll be heartbroken. And to me, that feels defeatist. And you're one of those people who, for the best part of my knowledge, pays your bills doing what we do.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, while people are saying that it's impossible, to borrow from 1632, it's impossible, and I know it's impossible. But pray nobody tells Neil it's impossible until after he's done it. So it's really important because a lot of we target a lot of writers, and right now with the available of 5th Ed, a lot of people are going, "Oh, I don't have to do the math." And it's funny because the vast majority of your products have been, again, they're successful, they're useful. I've yet to see one that I can't say, if I had the money, I would throw money at it because it's valid. But there's very little math because you do essentially just a whole lot of table generation from knowing what makes a game, and you've been doing it forever. So how do I want to ask this? What made you take the jump? Because I assume you designed the system behind it, the crunch behind it yourself.
Somewhat of Army Men it was originally it was originally conceived as a add-on for 5th edition. So I came up with this idea like 5 years ago, and it's been steadily changing with time and developments. And it was originally kind of a stealth way for me to just take all of the stuff I didn't like about 5th edition and alter it to a way that I felt was my main gripe for the system has always been like they simplified it to the point where it felt like you only had 2 or 3 real choices in making your character, and after that, it was all filler. And so I wanted to give more character customization. I wanted to have more tactical rules that weren't just like, hey, you can do this or not do this. Like, no, here's additional stuff for cover. Here's additional stuff for sight lines. Here's how you lay down cover fire. Here's all of these things that I thought would appeal to the wargaming crowd. And then I
love how you're right, because I do wargaming because Big Stumpy Robots. Actually, I've done a lot of games. It's just I've been doing them in the background, and people. I think there are a few things more heartbreaking than doing all the work, even when you get paid for a game, and then not seeing people not complete it. You know what I mean? Well, actually, you do know what I mean.
I do.
But so I have a lot that's coming out. Once I get through this big con prep, like I get to double down on it. But what made you feel the necessity to splice the two worlds as heavily as you did? Because for me, as an older style gamer, I was OSR before it was a term, for criminy sake. There's always been aspects where as soon as miniatures hit a board, it's still a tactics game. Once you get to that style of play,
spite.
No, go on, please.
It was to paraphrase a quote from Sean Huston. I was doing an interview the other day, and this occurred to me as someone was like, "Where do you get he's like, how do you get the ideas? Where does this all come from?" And it was he's a British author, for those who haven't read any of his work. But he was asked a very similar question, and his response was, "I need money. As soon as someone puts a check in my hand, the muse descends upon me with alarming speed." And it was a very similar situation. If it was Ascendant Gaming, which is unfortunately no longer with us, but it was a startup company that somebody I knew was looking to do, and he needed folks to help him create stuff, and he put me on retainer, essentially. And he wanted to do a game that would appeal to the minis and wargaming crowd, but he wanted to use Fate. And I just kind of had to put my hand up and be like, no. This is a group of people famous for like their specific distances and their sight lines and their various crunchy weapon systems. They're not going to be happy with a narrative story-based game. And it was just going through the various things of, this is what I know about the community. Here's what I think would appeal to them. And I was just having that moment of I was feeling very frustrated trying to reconcile the two different visions. And what came out of my mouth was like, man, if you could just go to the dollar store and buy a bag of Army Men and use that as your game, that would be. And then I stopped and I went, wait a minute, there's something here. And then I just started designing the whole game and just making it as tongue-in-cheek as possible. But I wanted to, much like with the mechanics, playing very strongly into the themes of the game, I wanted to have a world that you could play very fast and loose and very silly or very Hollywood, but you could also do very serious. You could do, Mission Impossible style games. You could do Westerns. You could do spy theme. You could do all sorts of different genres with it without having to redo any of the rules, without having to redo any of the actual story setup for the game. And it's kind of what I wanted to do for players. I wanted to hand them a versatile multi-tool that you had the same game, but it's whatever level of seriousness you want to bring to it, whatever bizarre themes you want to do. I wanted to really make it feel like that thing where you had all your toys in the backyard and you asked yourself, what kind of story do we want to tell today?
Okay. See, and this is why you're one of those people, we both get busy and we don't talk nearly as much as we should. But as soon as we do, we are instantly back to the sitting in front of, sitting on campus, you know what I mean? Drinking.
I remember Rosewood.
Oh, God, yes. God, now I want lemon rice soup. Anyway, yes, because it's 10:27 in the morning and nothing says morning like lemon rice soup.
Absolutely.
But we sat and we talked about these sorts of things. That's why I find it's so great to see your acting on things, because you were around when early incarnations of Big Snoppy Robots was being done, and we're talking about the same logic of, I love Crunch, but guys, why do you need an SAT form, Scantron to track, every single unit? And,
or what's the story from Traveler of you can spend 45 minutes on character generation and then you die?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
thank you. And this brings us to another interesting point, which you just handed me. Because one of my big critiques on 5th Ed and a lot of modern games is, frankly, they're too safe. People get very attached to their characters. And if you look at the way the rule sets of, especially the evolution of Dungeons and Dragons has gone, but a lot of other games, because D&D sort of tends to walk a road and then people branch out a lot, are very, even at level 1, there's very little real sense of being squishy. Mm-hmm. Your character is rarely in danger of death. So, how would you rank the threat to your character in this game? And I am current. It's re-uploading. I'm just
take your time,
double checking. We're about halfway there, but
it's going to. There's a thing I did that I thought, it's not unique by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a thing I thought was very interesting, and that I don't think a lot of people who run RPGs, sitting in the big chairs, the game master, will have thought of. And it's, I took out a lot of record keeping for this game. There's so much stuff we're used to when we run games. You have to track XP and you have to track how much treasure people have gotten and all of that. And just none of it. That's all out the window. And it's one of the major advantages, I think, of having a game where the setup is like, you are all in the military. You don't buy your own equipment. If you get your mission and then they give you your loadout, here's what you need, go on. And this gives you a lot of power as the game master to set that challenge of, if where you're going in, your players are going to just get absolutely swarmed. You could make it like a big old Starship Troopers style, last stand, just give them all the ammunition that they want, give them whatever weapon they ask for. Or you could, there's a rule I have in there called Hollywood guns. If you're one of those people who just doesn't want to track ammo, doesn't want to bother with it.
Absolutely. I love going back. I think the best thing that WotC put out in the last, since D20 was a thing, was actually their modern version.
Oh, I love D20 Modern. They're fun.
And if you go into I'm plumbing the depths here, and I'm kind of showing a bit of my age. Not really showing my age, but a bit of my age. I want to say Green Ronin Publishing did a Modern Magic supplement that it's incredibly rare now, but they had bottomless magazines,
Yep.
and they had one of my favorite things was the Hollywood gun mechanic, where you fire, and you just keep going no matter how much it's supposed to load, and then after the combat, to use it again, you have to reload first all the bullets you already expended, and then add some more. Is it a similar mechanic? Because guys, you can't trademark mechanics.
You cannot. It's if I remember correctly, I don't have the document in front of me. We might have made changes when I wasn't looking, but there's generally 3 tiers of you can do this if you're a game master. Like tier 1 is like track every round you fire, blah. That's
right.
It's great for survival based games, or if you want to use limited ammo as part of what you're trying to do for challenge. But it is a thing lots of players hate doing. There's a clip-based system where it's like, if you can use your weapon however much you want for this combat, you will expend 1 clip or 1 belt or whatever it is, depending on what you're using.
Right.
And then there's the Hollywood gun feature, which is like, I'm not tracking ammo. I don't care. Like, you're in the middle of an ammo dump. I'm assuming you can find extra ammo if you need it. And that's essentially the limiting mechanic for that one is if you do roll a natural 1, your weapon jams. And now you have to spend either a turn to unjam it, or you have to grab another weapon, John Wick style. Just no, next. But that's more of an action management than a resource management mechanic.
Right.
But anyway, we were talking about squishiness and danger.
Well,
and so that's part of it. And so your equipment is going to be a lot of it, but there's also the question of what particular options you're taking and what particular types of missions you're going on. Because lots of people, when they hear the game and they hear the pitch, they're thinking the very obvious, there's trenches and a no man's land and machine guns going off, and it's very World War II. And that is an option if you want to run that.
Right.
But there's also, wilderness exploration. There's essentially tower defense if, a bunch of, Vespoids, which are the giant insects that are the major antagonist for the beginning of the game. Because it's one of the other major toys you find in the discount aisle at the dollar store is like giant bugs.
Yes. No, I as a guy whose Met game is based entirely on miniatures I made out of old fireworks sticks as a kid, that I grew up in. I can buy dowel rods now. I adore the mentality and the. What you're making is something, and I'm starting to see this, that the independent creators get, that the big guys just cannot grasp, is understanding that there seems to be 3 tiers of play across any game, where you have either the, your hardcore, we're tracking everything, we want the tactical constraints to be almost a presence in the room, this looming, a zombie game where you have infinite ammo is very different from a zombie game where you're tracking every round. And, then you have this sort of middle line that's a very comfortable place for both player and GM. I'm trying to break the habits, and I'm encouraging anyone who does RPGs especially to try to break the habits of defaulting to D&D terms instead of generic terms, because generic terms serve us all a lot better. Thinking in terms of GM, thinking in terms of the game, not RPGs, not D&D, because so many people use them interchangeably. And I love the for the folks who are going to run miniatures, you're setting up where literally this should be very, very inexpensive in a world where there's this bizarre. I'm a war gamer. I see the Games Workshop. You see this miniature? Yeah, that's a bad looking miniature. Yeah, it's only $1,000. I'm like, or you can't use that. Why? Well, you see, that's the wrong shade of Imperial blue for that unit. And it's just.
Side note on Games Workshop and ridiculousness. I saw someone who decided they were going to fully embrace the requirement of, like, you can only have minis made with official Games Workshop materials. So he built a Necron army out of old sprues.
Yes! Oh,
And it was great.
That's exactly. They're tucked around out here, but I have been slowly acquiring Reaper Mini, which has been probably my favorite. I mean, that the Caskworks catalog is what got me into fantasy art. It's what got me into mecha. My love for mecha. And after years of seeing the Cav mechas, looking at BattleTech and going, but they're stickmen, got me in a lot of trouble. But they put out mouselings that just happen to be in very spacey space marine armor and equipment. And I am putting together, because I have friends who are devout 40k players, and are always trying to get me to play. And I played 40k. I actually quite liked Mordheim. I'm not gonna lie. I played with a friend, a mutual acquaintance of ours, actually, a gentleman named Pete Pidrak. He got me into Mordheim. Great fun if people allow you to use whatever miniatures you can get your hands on, which fortunately Pete's that way. But I want to have a full Space Marine army entirely of Reaper mouselings, simply to be that guy trademark, you know?
His war hamster.
Yes! Yes!
Because I'm here for this joke. I know memes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's God, it's so nice to have somebody I can play off of this stuff with. But
to finish thought that I had for your question. Your danger level is going to depend on a lot of things, because obviously I took out all of the magic, where we might bring some of that in later if we get enough to expand the meta. For folks who are really interested, the first major crossover I wanted to have, since we're talking about 40k and metal miniatures and whatnot, was the incursion of the Metal Men of Maladonia, which is where we find the actual old style like pewter minis, and we have cultural conflicts among other problems with their
the Raoul Parkland minis rise up. Dang, I am dating myself again.
Yes,
but no, I love this.
With their allies, the sorcerers of the beach, or whatever I end up calling them. But
I'm sorry.
But one of the major things I had to reinvent for, well, not reinvent, but at least come up with a better solution for, is since we have no clerics anymore, how are we healing? And so we have the medic class, obviously. Right. And it's one of those of, you don't need a medic. There are other ways you can heal yourselves, heal your allies, if you take the appropriate exploits, if you really want to do a little bit of mechanical chicanery. But without a medic, your unit's going to have a much harder time. And again, because there's not clerics, there's not divine intervention. Once you're dead, you're dead. There's no coming back, unless you are very fortunate to be playing a max level squad of I took the game to level 13 because I didn't see a reason to do a full 20th level game. I know like 6 people who've ever gone to that level. After that, you become what's called an old soldier, because I just had fun with that. But I believe the capstone level ability for the medic is you can essentially resurrect someone if they haven't been dead for very long. In that traditional Hawkeye Pierce of no, we're not giving up sort of setup.
Beautiful. No,
but unless you're at that level, it might be tough to get you down to dead, but once you're there, you're there.
No, see, I do enjoy that, because I run games, and I run games for everything running from adults who've been gaming forever to introductory. This is what gaming is. It was supposed to be a teenage program, but I'll have 5-year-olds come in who get handed an index card that they are a goblin with 4 hit points and an axe. Here, you need this. A D10, D20, and a D4. If you can be cool, you can play. If not, you run off in the woods till you can be cool again.
That's fair.
But the squishiness is something that some gamers aren't used to. And I think once they get over the hump of, but I don't want my carefully crafted, min-maxed, optimized character to die, or that, they really have a lot more fun when there's a sense of threat. Mm-hmm. I find games aren't fun if you can't lose, you know?
Yes, I think that a lot of it, particularly with this game, is it will depend partially on what genre you're playing, but also depend on various things like background abilities. I have I think 5 different religions in the game. One of which is like the I had a good term for it and I can't remember what it was now, but it's essentially the cult of the hero.
Okay.
It comes from our yes, because it's in Great Soviet Michigan, but it's the Styric Republic is the not USSR of the setting, and
Okay.
they have this very like citizen soldier, like putting those in the military on a very high pedestal, and there's this tradition within that religion that as long as you tell the stories of the great heroes, they will never truly die. So there is a bit of a like the death corps of Krieg if they were heroic.
Oh
in
no,
there.
no, I see that.
It's like
And
they have this tendency of throwing themselves into very dangerous situations. They will volunteer for really, really just duties no one should want because they want to live forever. And if you wanted to do that as a player, as a way to kind of get around that idea of like, but if I die, I won't finish the story, of like, yeah, but you could just bring in another dude with the exact same
yeah,
mechanics who heard that guy's story and he wants to top it.
I see, and that's what I love, because there's a sense of versatility that instead of saying, well, at the end of the day, the DM is always right, and you play your table your way, which has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. It seems like here's nice distinct levels of play to meet the complexity. Now your 2-minute ad has actually loaded your 2-minute
Huzzah!
version. So what we'll do is I'll run it, and if you want me to stop at any point to explain anything, I'll turn our mics back on. Normally I turn the mics off, during the ad, and folks can see it. So we'll do this.
Sounds good.
Army Men is a tabletop RPG set in a world of living plastic. Players take on the roles of soldiers within one of the nations of the Plastos Federation, forming a squad that will be deployed to scout the wilds, defend civilian populations, and go in guns blazing against the dangers of the setting. Players choose their character's resin from one of the classic variants, green, gray, red, tan, or blue, and then select one of the game's unique classes like Medic, Grunt, Scout, Tactician, or even Ordnance. With nearly 24 unique starting backgrounds as well as the exploit system that allows players to truly customize their character's abilities, Army Men provides plenty of fodder for your troopers. Players aren't the only ones getting fresh toys to play with either. Game Masters receive unique tools for creating challenges and setting difficulty, both through expanded tactical rules to provide more battlefield flexibility, but also by eliminating a lot of the bookkeeping you find in traditional RPGs. There's no experience points to track, for example, as players level up after completing a certain number of missions. There's also no gold to track or expenses to follow. Players requisition the gear they need for their missions before deployment, allowing everyone's loadout to be tailored to what they're expecting to encounter. Lastly, players and game masters alike are given a fresh, unusual setting to explore. The nations of the Acetal Alliance, United Polymeria, the Styric Republic, and Acrylica have united against the threat of the Vespoids, huge insectoid creatures that pose a risk to every resinous person in the world if they are not stopped. Even though these nations share a common enemy, though, many of them have bad blood and histories that go back for centuries. So while some missions may go out into the trenches, others may take place in shadowy backrooms and dark alleys frequented by spies or undercover agents. If you're looking for an RPG that will be unlike anything else you've played before, and which is simple enough for new players while providing plenty of fresh challenge for experienced ones, then back Army Men today.
Huzzah!
One, I know I shortened the commercial because that's the one I'll be able to run.
That's fair.
Will this be going to a perpetual where people can get it after the crowdfund?
I believe so. I hope so. That's where I'll probably honestly make most of my money as the creator.
Right. I ask that because some people are saying the crowdfund bubble has popped a bit. There's a lot of navigation to be had between game design has shifted radically lately. I mean, the last year has been an absolute roller coaster ride, and frankly, I hate to say, I'm kind of glad to see some of the larger. You're not seeing the huge numbers. That when Kickstarter first started, and when you got to Indiegogo,
Mhm.
and the smaller guys like Fund My Comic popped up. There was that rush of huge. I mean, everybody, gold rush money.
Mhm.
But then now that's kind of petering off. I think that's going to give us a better product in the long run, because when people come to it with, I want to make a good product, not I want to make this huge money,
Mhm.
you're more likely to get better product for the consumer.
That's the hope, at least.
Well, that's one thing I don't have a lot of guests on this program because usually it's about supporting my amazing chat, which you won't find a better bunch of authors and artists rattling around. That I totally don't run in people's circles with my ever expanding lasso of a Venn diagram and go, "Oh, hi, I'm a traveling artist. You're awesome. You're awesome. Whoop! Welcome to the club." And move in. But oh god, and we're seeing that you want to associate when you get a chance to look through the chat, because there are some people who are doing some great stuff, especially internationally. I know you are an old steampunk aficionado,
Yes.
so you need to be introduced to Bonsert Bokel, who's been doing the Association of Ishtar. I'm sure his name has at least crossed your path.
It sounds familiar.
To give you an example, I don't want to find it because it came up. Let's see. There's a gentleman by the name of Froggy who doesn't always make this show, but he's notorious for throwing people's links in chats. So my stuff, he's throwing my books and stuff. But if I can find it, danged if he didn't put the Goodreads for Cryer's Knife.
Aw, it's pretty
and the Amazon for Cryer's Knife. And I've been talking about this book for literally years because it pulled me out of a funk where I went through a period where, and I don't know if, or just you pick up every book you pick up just doesn't hit. And it's like it's not even depression. It's just nothing was, it's one of those times where Jim Butcher once again has wandered off into, but I want to do sword and sorcery, not urban. No, back in your box. Go back where you're good. You're a par at best sword and sorcery guy, but you're a great urban fantasy noir. Go, no Harry, back. And I hit that, and it was like, I think I destroyed that whole novel in one night. I think it was one of what I call an insomnia book, where I'll just look to see how good it is. Well,
and it's 3 a.m.
Oh yeah, like your eyes are burning. You have like the crust on your face. Like, what is that noise? Oh god,
birds.
Bird. Yeah, see, evil orb in sky. But so I want folks to understand that this isn't just Neil is not. I consider myself a game mechanic. I love that pun. Where I have my own lore, but I also I operate really well when somebody gives me the lore and they give me an idea what kind of system they want, and I can sit and wrench in here. You're going to look good. Your system's going to look good. I'll get money. But, I don't usually add a terrible lot of flavor when I'm doing other people's stuff anyway. But because it's so much, you're such an author. I love the term literary mercenary, and I work so hard not to steal it unaccredited. I I use it, but I just try to, because I am not AI. Should have waited till you weren't drinking to say that.
That's fair.
But the lore behind it, and I want you guys to watch the intro to this video. I just didn't want to lose viewers because
That's totally fair. I understand.
So this is a great game. When I get a hold of a PDF, hit a ton of bricks, I'll do a full review because I love to do that. But
yeah, there's also going to be a lot of sexy art. I can't release any of it yet, but I've been getting a lot of the work in progress from the artists that the team is paired with, and oh boy, that's there's a very unique feeling when someone else is creating things based on what you laid down, and they get it. And I've worked with a lot of different creators over the past, and I've seen them they'll give me something, and I'm just like, that looks nothing remotely like what I just described. Did we have the same conversation? And then occasionally it's just like, no, this perfect, more, 10 more like that.
I like it. Spike the picture.
Another.
Drink me more. Thoriel, because Neil's worth it. But
yes.
I want to check. I'm going to skim through the comments real quick because we know this is a good game. I want to make sure there aren't any questions because, like I said, you are a very unique figure in that you delegate and collaborate better than nearly anyone I know.
I try to.
And yet you still maintain your individual projects. You found a real balance between the two roles most people take in the creative fields, both as authors and stuff. So while I'm scrolling through this, how do you balance and decide, oh no, this is my project, I'm going top to bottom handling it, or that's a project I want to be in on, or this is a project I'm spearheading? I mean, what's your breakdown for that?
Sure. At least part of it is going to be, as I mentioned earlier, like, how much am I being paid for this? There's a chart somebody put out a while ago of, it's 200 for me to do this job, it's 300 for you to consult with me while I do the job, and it's 500 for me to do the job if you want to be standing next to me while I'm doing it. And it's like, that's a large portion of it, of how much control am I being given, and how many requirements or how much naysay does somebody else have over the idea that will make it more difficult. It'll take more time, all of that. When you make something specifically for a client and they have an idea and what they want to see, I usually want a little more out of the deal than if it's just like, hey, I want this thing, make something cool. And occasionally I'll have people where they'll come to me and it's like, hey, I have a slot that needs filling. Do you have a project? Do you have something you want to do? And at that point, I'll just dig through the notebook of just like, here's an idea I had a while ago. I think this would fit your brand. It's like, yeah, do that. And then they just kind of leave me alone to be an art goblin until I'm done with it.
That's such a good feeling. There are few things as nice as being let loose in someone's world. When they just trust you. Luke and I have had, Lord knows, enough issues. The man had the audacity to have a contract with me and then die. I mean, the rudeness of it. So, of course, he had to come back because there's no way someone with a contract with me is going to get out simply by dying. That's not how we work.
Yeah, it's not how the rules function around here.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's why the hybrids thing came out. And for that, he wanted a system. So I built him a system from ground up that feels D&D-ish without being D&D. And the more we worked on it, because I love his universe because it reminds me of the old Claremont X-Men era. So lots of potential. And, this crazy story where, as much as I love a gritty anti-hero, and we both can really appreciate a gritty anti-hero, It's gotten to the point where you turn around and they've like duct taped stubble on everyone. It's like they have this jar of stubble flocking and spray adhesive, and they're just going to characters and going, psst, poof, you're now a rugged. It's like, it's Cyclops. Cyclops cannot be a rugged rebel outsider.
Side note of
Yes.
a thing that I just think you would be amused by, maybe your audience would also be amused by.
Please.
I was sitting around kicking stuff around, with my roommate, and we were just having those thought experiments because, fun fact for anyone who wants to get into the industry, who wants to be a creator, and you're wondering, how do I become XYZ person? If you're at a convention and you just sit down and randomly talk to somebody, there's a good chance that person might be like head of your favorite comic and you just don't know. Yeah. It happens all the time. Like, I'll just be sitting on a panel talking to somebody I've never met, and then they'll introduce themselves, and I'm like, what do you mean you're the head writer on X-Men for the past 5 years? How did that not come up in our conversation till just now? But it was since we were all talking about, like, they're probably going to do, X-Men at some point to bring it back into the brand. We're like, we should do a series, and at no point in time should you reinvent Cyclops. I want him to be the most boring dad energy character ever. I want him to be reliable. I want him to be like, anytime he tries to be cool, everyone just rolls their eyes at him. Just knows. I want dad energy Cyclops.
It's really sweet. I want you to open your fridge, grab a big jar of mayonnaise, slap an optical visor on it, and when it gets, I'm being edgy, throw a trench coat and see how ridiculous. I get it. No, I'm right there with you, and that's beautiful.
But just as like the sub layer of that, a thing that I think would make the character really interesting, could add depth. This is fun character building tip for anybody thinking about it. Have that moment of just little things of like, it's like, why does Scott never look at anyone? Because it's rude to point a gun at someone when you're having a conversation with them. Just have that moment of like, why is he so nice? Why is he so chill? Because he's a living weapon and he's very well aware of it. And he is trying as hard as he can to be the lamest person in the room. He does not want you to have to pull him out. And it's like, that is, in my opinion, how you make the character more interesting, how you add, a little bit of depth to him. It's not that, he needs to be gritty and rebellious. It's that he is very well aware of what his power is used for, and he does not want to use it.
And see, I love that. It's shocking because my two favorite heroes for a long time were Superman when he's done right. And I have to put this huge caveat. It's an asterisk about this big. It's on a page.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I'll get to that, but because, I'll go to it because I can't. Supes has to take a whooping first.
Yes.
And
traditional hero roles, if you can't win first all the time.
And like, he's at his best when it's the man, not
the super.
Because we know he's going to survive. I don't think, we endured at our age the death of Superman.
That was a formative event for me as a comics fan.
Oh yeah. Which, that and Nightfall were the two big, because DC's about I really believe that DC is still about single characters. Even though they have teams, it's really about single characters, whereas more about teams, even in their single character books. But after that, that was a one and done where you cared. But Supes is best when the problem is something that he can't punch, I-beam, whatever new power of the week that one random person is going to make him because he needs more power, and he has to, the Kansas good guy farmers, Clark is the person who solves the problem, not, that's where you start finding interest. Batman actually plays the same way. Batman is always the best at either of his extremes, where he's either a borderline cryptid, is that even human freak of the night, or he's holding a little girl's hand who knows she's going to die because the government put a special ability in her brain. These are the extremes that make Batman the best. But Cap, this is morality. but good still matters. Like, I love the headcanon that Cap went through. He went back in time, and he's still Mr. Rogers. He's just Mr. Rogers.
He's on PBS now.
Yeah, it all makes sense if especially if you know Fred Rogers' history. That Cap going back in time would become the Marvel version of Mr. Rogers as time passed. Like, no, we can talk about our feelings. We can prevent this stuff. Yeah, I love that universe. Because the single best thing with Cap was sometimes you have to put your back at the river of truth and say, no, you move kind of thing. They're afraid to write characters like that. And I don't know why. I love a good anti-hero. I really do. But it's like modern writers have gotten so afraid to write, they're just a good guy.
I have a theory on this.
Please.
Much as with anything else, when this is a thing of, if you want to actually pay your bills at the end of the month, you pay attention to crowd trends, you pay attention to numbers and whatnot. But it's become a thing, particularly with bigger companies, since Marvel, DC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're all owned by big conglomerates now. And the people greenlighting your projects, the higher up you go, whether we're talking about Disney or Hasbro or whoever, if you come in saying like, hey, this is a weird, unproven idea, or this would be a risk with our IP, even if you have all the numbers that say people say this would be good, they're not going to let you do it until it's already been done and worked somewhere, which becomes this whole catch-22 of like, you can't, you can't, if you're too crazy to serve, then by definition, you wouldn't know that it's dangerous, so you wouldn't try to leave.
Right.
And so it's a thing of the bigger and more popular the company, the tighter a hold they have on what they see as selling well. And it could be for a completely different reason than what they think it is, but they will just white knuckle that until it's hurting the bottom line enough they put somebody else in charge willing to take a risk, which is why, in my opinion, you see a lot of weirder stuff, a lot of more unusual stuff come from indie comics, indie RPGs, indie writers, whatever it is, because like they don't have someone over them telling them like, nobody's going to buy that. That's dumb. We're not doing this. And they might be right. The idea might be like very silly, and it might not find its audience because you don't have a marketing budget and whatnot. But that's also where you get the bizarre stuff you're not going to find anywhere else.
Exactly. And that's why even when I started, I realized my when I was dealing with comics a lot, I was very much a product of the Image and Top Cow era. I'm not saying I love the mainline guys, but part of it was I knew them all through animation first. So the stories weren't terribly new. And you'd look at it and it's like, for me, the tights and capes crowd is always going to have a level of like, I want to write a character whose superpower is common sense in a somewhere between like, in the Marvel universe, he would be somewhere between Coulson and Nick Fury, and his job is to walk around and put pockets on that. But no, she needs pockets.
Not all of the pockets. This is not the 90s.
Yeah, no, Cable, I'm looking at you. Step back. Encumbrance is a rule.
Yeah, 30% fewer pockets. The art someone did of the amazing belt man. It's just nothing but pockets with his pocket rifle.
Oh yeah, I remember that. The pouch, a living embodiment of all the pouches in the 90s. But it's like, because I I've always loved comics, but I'll run into that line, Peter Parker is poor. Why is Peter Parker poor? Well,
because it's in the story Bible. We have to go back to it at the end of the week.
It's like, no, let him go from take the period from being an awkward teen, and he sometimes gets to being an awkward like freshman in college, and that's all Peter Parker ever is,
unless he's like middle-aged and a dad and exhausted.
They just now started throwing that like little hints of that, but not much. And it's like, This is a guy smart enough to make web shooters in most conditions. I love the acrobatic. It's like, Petey, just sell the web shooters. Go DARPA. Want to see something cool? Flick.
You're on a first name basis with Reed Richards. Just have him write up a contract. Done.
I want to be the Fantastic Four. No, you want to work with Reed in the lab. And if you pay attention, Petey's happiest when he can and I love those moments where he throws the lab coat over the Spider-Man outfit. And he's got his goggles because he's made
because ignoring lab safety is what got him here.
Right. So he's like, this is something I love that aspect. And when you see a character like that, and that makes for good writing. Now, granted, I'm about to pull a major 180 and, completely contradict myself when about Gritty. I will say one of my favorite things that have happened is the recent Back in Black arc where May got shot.
Oh, yeah.
And Peter Parker beat the tar out of the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Spider-Man wouldn't do this. So he takes off the Spider-Man suit, beats the tar, and forms. I could have killed you at any point. With the whole webs down the throat. And I'm like, suddenly he sounds like a human. And it's terrible. He's not a superhero in that moment. But it was interesting writing.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm doing this comic stuff is everything I've seen you do has a graphic novel flair. It's that when you write a gritty character, they are a gritty character. When you write a light kind of fun piece, it is a very light, almost in the realm of absurdist fun piece. And this is somebody who unironically wears Hawaiian shirts most places,
as you should.
Branding, but I love this aspect of how you double down and the idea that good writing makes better material in games, in comics, in movies. And shockingly, this might be why some of the newer movies are suffering, because the core material's writing wasn't as good as some of the previous. And what we can learn from that as independent creators ourselves. So, I know, this will never be a shill show. I'm far more interested in what the people who are creating, why they do it, how they do it, edutainment at its finest, the more you know. But we do have some comments.
Ooh,
and as a game designer, I think we should look at them.
Absolutely.
Because I was talking about Bonsert, and he asked, half hour ago, still needs to choose a dice system for Association of Ishtar.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Association of Ishtar at all?
Not as much as I should be, so give me the rundown.
Association of Ishtar is, I almost went, here, I can run the ad. Actually, why not?
You're the host, do it.
Yeah, why should I tell you about the Association of Ishtar when if I scroll up here, I'll run his ad?
Greetings, fellow traveler, and welcome to the Association of Ishtar, a multiverse of cosmic mystery and steampunk adventure. The Association of Ishtar is a clandestine organization of volunteers investigating anomalies called rifts, portals to other worlds where anything is possible. Most of these planes are but savage variations of Earth, but some are home to advanced civilizations or the occasional alien beings beyond human comprehension. Every day, these brave men and women are risking their lives by crossing the fringes of reality. Should they succumb, they will die in obscurity. But it's not the Associate's vocation to perish, but to seek out and gather information on the copious threats lurking beyond the rifts to ensure humanity can overcome. After all, those who pry prevail.
All right, I'm sold.
And it's a, how do I want to put it? Do you remember back in the well, I don't know if you're old enough to have read the like Thieves World books, where there was great sci-fi and fantasy collaborative settings, outside of Forgotten Realms. I mean, Forgotten Realms kind of feels that way. But this feels like the easiest way to say a steampunk SCP foundation.
Yeah.
But much darker. I know you resonate with the grittiness. But he wants to know, what kind of dice system do you think he should go with? Now, Rich pipes in a whole bunch, and he's an accomplished game master, player, etc. But I don't think he's put out any materials. So I want you to be able to weigh in for Bonsert.
So my first thought is, if you're willing to work with existing systems and you don't want to create your own, Savage Worlds would work really well for this. I know that they have versions for the game Rifts. So if you can do that with Savage Worlds, if you can fit something as like weird and wild as Galarian, the system for Pathfinder, into it, you can do any of these other weird things. The system was meant to be very flexible and not very complicated. My second thought would be to do some variety of dice pool mechanic. I know the storyteller system doesn't allow people to just create stuff for it that isn't for the World of Darkness, the Chronicles of Darkness. But I know there's D6 dice pool systems out there. I don't know that I would recommend something like Powered by the Apocalypse, but I know there's going to be people who would eat that up if you chose to. It's like that's thoughts off the top of my head. If you could do it with a D20 system, but it seems like the kind of thing that it wouldn't take to as well.
And bonds are based in the Netherlands. So anyway, yeah, Netherlands. Anyway, so he tends to have the more European approach to gaming in general and writing and such. So that's why I'm not. There are a lot of people who are looking at you. Well, 5th edition is Creative Commons.
It is, but
it is.
Yeah, it's not meant for everything. Is a hill that I have planted my flag on, and I have a lawn chair of not everything needs to be 5e, especially not anymore since Wizards did the impossible and got people to play something other than that edition for once.
And if I were, to devil's advocate, because I have to, if you were going to, you can, because they went Creative Commons, it's much easier to cherry pick.
Oh, yes,
so you could,
very easy.
And because I'm planning to do some stuff with, yes, I borrowed from WotC, to make my system, but trust me, you put it out there. I'm like, I need this page and that page. Your magic system sucks. It's going out the window. And I have some stuff going on because I am a huge fan of the basic fantasy RPG, which is
I believe just got a re-release for something new.
Yeah, they've been working on a new edition, and I love it because not only is it essentially the mother of all fan projects, it's my roots are right here.
Oof.
This is, to me, when I think what a character sheet should look like as a kid. This is where I started. I am a product of the Satanic Panic, and the book that was photocopied and every page laminated to protect it from Mountain Dew.
Yes.
Was found alongside the road during the Satanic Panic to give you origins of this. But it feels like that done with, 5th ed positive numbers.
Yeah.
And then a few expansions where you can get crazy things like cantrips. Oh my God. But still keeps that sense of squishiness.
Mm-hmm.
All that's free to download, and to buy the books print, it's like $5. So I use that when I work with the library. So I can see where you could. Yeah, I was going when you said riffs, it naturally has that draw to something like riffs for me, or I'd almost be tempted to go GURPS with it, again to date myself a little bit.
Yeah,
But
it's the two major concerns you're going to have whenever you're picking your dice system and various other things is ask what the audience for that existing system already is, because you can sell people on flavor a lot of the time, but if you have a rule system that is unpopular or if it is very against the current grain of what people want, people will refuse to play a game based on that.
oh, absolutely.
It is a thing that I find very frustrating as someone who likes games with a lot of moving parts. The trend for the past 5-6 years has been remove as many rules as possible so that no one has to read any books.
It's I love having this because a lot of times I'm doing that. I'm the guy who goes for rules light systems, but it's the same mentality of why I teach a very basic system of swordsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to pull people in, get them entertained, and once they're hooked, well, I want to do something a bit more. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you now?
do you now? I want to do. I remember when third edition came out. Like, I like third edition after it'd been out for a while, but there's so many books I don't know where to start. I'm like, I'll give you the secret. Start at Castles and Crusades. What? It's third edition, but Gygax's players wrote it. So, streamline. Depth, but not excess. And then if you really want to go, that's why things like Rifts exists.
Mm-hmm.
God. Every time I hear Rifts, my brain starts thinking, but where is my Titan Mega Juicer? Where is he? And why can't I throw him at the enemy? He's ready to go. I've been priming him for so long. No. Glitter Boys are the ultimate hammer. The problem is they start making everything look like a nail.
Yes.
Now,
you can solve any problem with a hammer, provided you can explain why that problem is a nail.
Bardic Carpentry.
Yeah, this may end up being a quote somewhere used by one of the Green Troopers now that I'm thinking about it.
That really does have that sound, and I love it. One of my other first thoughts was Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah, that is if you want to have a system where players are more vulnerable, definitely. I don't know what the rules are for Delta Green. That's what I'm thinking of. I don't know.
Green,
yeah, I don't know if that is an available to use system for people. I don't know if there's an agreement you can sign to work on. That might work really well, because I know initially it was just Call of Cthulhu, but it's kind of grown and evolved over time to become its own thing.
Well, I know that Monster's been trying to track down a game designer, and I've been tangled up in my contract with Luke Stone for the hybrid stuff for quite a while, and then some attachments. But you may really want to reach out and talk to him when you have some time.
So
because
noted.
I think you two will very much mesh. And he has a great program that's always looking for guests that talks about steampunk and talks about gaming. And what I love about Army Men is you've taken the most innocuous, the source of most people's modern tactic gaming interest. At least.
Oh dear, did you freeze? Oh dear, we appear to be experiencing technical difficulties.
Sorry,
there we go.
My internet dropped down to being a little unstable. Unfortunately, I have absolutely terrible internet.
These things, they do happen.
Okay, we're coming back up. Your system has these layers. Mm-hmm. And I think, given your appreciation for all things dark and squishy, and things that can be very cool, but things can go very wrong, there's a really great mesh there. I think that might be something worth doing. And there are a few joys I have bet larger than taking two people, making this connection, going, I think this will work. And then, that's my version of social engineering for the profit of all, Now, somebody's getting cranky at me because now you're hearing the messages to my phone.
Yeah, these things, they happen.
He's saying D20. Pathfinder would probably be better than your standard D20 just because it has a little more room for grit. And I will say this. I'm a big proponent if you don't know what you're going to do, what dice system you want to do. And this is a cheater hack, which I'm pretty sure if Neil hasn't used, he's at least thought of. Set it percentile. If you don't know what system you want to do for the math, set it on a percentile setup.
That's an option.
Because once you've set it to a percentile, you could say, okay, they want it to be D6s. Then you just pull out the sheet that gives you, because you don't have to remember these numbers. They're all really easy to acquire. The odds, and you just convert it to D6, and then you feel any changes that rattle. A D20 is a 5 percentile dice. So if you set something to a D100 for everything you want to do, you can change it from there much easier than building another system if you have no idea.
The other thing to keep in mind, and this is something I think a lot of us forget about, is that it feels a lot like the era of the console wars back when you had, Sega and Super Nintendo, et cetera, of games are more and more commonly being made available in a bunch of different formats.
Yeah.
So while picking which one to start with might be a bit of a brain teaser of if it turns out you picked quote unquote the wrong one, or if you have a lot of people who are like, I love your world, but I only play X, Y, or Z system. You can just release a port for that system. Yeah, I've read Shadowrun. That's as far as I've gone. But so it's one of those of whatever one you can get either for free or whichever one has like the best sweetheart deal for you. Of if you're finding in the market, there's a lot of people going, it's like, my group just moved over to Pathfinder 2nd Edition and we don't want to buy a whole bunch of books again to play this other system. Just convert it. You can do that fairly easily. And if you need to save costs, convert it and release it as a PDF. And if people buy a lot of the PDFs, then you can do a print on demand, or you can do a Kickstarter run for full books. If you have an audience that's just like, yes, we want this, we will pay for it. But it's all about keeping your options open, and you don't usually have to sign too much. It's more the question of how much energy can you put in, how many people can you get to help you, and what are your parameters for what's going to allow you to do this extra work. A good example is I had a lot of folks asking when I was going to do some stuff for my Sundara Dawn of a New Age setting in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I really don't like the 2nd edition. It's a lot of extra fiddly stuff for me to keep on top of all the editions I'm already making content for. So I tried to reach out to other people, be like, hey, you know this setting really well. Would you be interested in doing the conversions? Then you can have, the sales royalties for that. And I'll just take my 5% cut as like creator of the setting and just go wild. Oh no, the internet appears to have dropped again. And let's see if it comes back. Oh, there we go. I heard something.
Yep, the net is being a little weird, and it's on my end. It'll glitch and then tell me, "Oh, your net's getting weird." It's supposed to warn me
ahead of time. Yeah,
but the other thing is, my wife is home. She's normally not home on Wednesdays at this time, so her cell phone is in the house. Her device. We have more devices. Normally, I run around and I make sure everything else in the house is turned off.
That's fair.
But so to answer Bonzer's original question and keep moving, I would say that talk to Neil directly if you guys can make an attachment, because I think you can get a lot of information. And I'm not trying to volunteer your services too much.
I'm always happy to help with folks who need problems.
And let's see. And yeah, I will. It's like because it's the tactically sanest thing to recommend. I do have to say, if possible, have a 5th ed edition available, just because that's the big game. It's something I've been fighting for a long time because there's no way I was signing an OGL. There was no way I was getting involved with that.
Yeah, no.
But with it being Creative Commons, it doesn't hurt you to do that, and you're not giving away anything with it, comparative to what it used to be. So set that up, even if you don't like it. I think that's one we all have to consider biting the bullet when we're doing game designers. And I know a lot of the folks in the chat, actually, they're writers who don't have games for their stuff, but they're looking into it or they're thinking about it. I do some game design. I'm kind of planning an arc where I have to catch up with all the stuff I put off. Because if I don't do the next edition of Big Stompy Robots that I've been planning, my wife's going to kill me, and I fear her more than you.
That's fair.
Oh, that's more to the chat. I love you guys, but there are only 3 things I'm scared of: my God, my government, and my wife. Because all of them can give me a fate worse than death. And my wife is one of my favorite people on the planet. Amanda's awesome. But reach out to me. Reach out to Neil. I told you I know some people who are useful for that sort of thing. Let's see. What's this, Carl? Copywriting this now. Writers table game where pieces are pens and notepads. They get points by writing X number of words. Points up for writer's block malingering.
There's I don't know if it's still up. I found it a few years ago. It's called Fighter's Block.
Ooh.
It's a website where you have a little window where you can do your writing, and at the top you have your little avatar, and they're fighting some variety of monster, and they continue doing damage as you type, and as you stop typing, you start losing progress until it yells at you. So it's essentially a tool for getting people who will just sit and freeze to keep going until like you get used to being able to go back and edit later, or even if what you think you're writing is crap, write the crap. You can edit crap. You cannot fix an empty page.
Either you've been watching my show in the back more than we realize, or I love hearing that come rattling around. And let's see, we've got that Radio Retro Future acknowledges more time with the bet. I absolutely agree. Now, I did get in trouble the last time I played because I was playing Witch Hunters and I was supposed to be allied with a fellow player who happened to have a troll. And I'm like, I'm fine, but don't give me line of sight on your troll. What? I'm going to tell you now, don't. I'm playing Witch Hunters.
Yes,
well, that doesn't matter. As soon as they crossed, I'm like, Duke, I got a full volley on this troll. Why? Because your army's been infiltrated. Don't you understand?
Yes, but why not a cracking game of Hero Quest? Speaking of GW producers.
Oh, yeah. Why Hero Quest is the...
I love the Bard.
Oh, he's brilliant. And it's the release of Hero Quest has been coming down lately.
Oh, yeah. It's the... what is it? It's not their 2nd edition. It's their re-release that they gave. They gave us some new classes and some new minis and some fun stuff. I haven't checked it out yet, but it did look interesting.
It looks really good, and I'm really tempted because I love Hero Quest. I haven't played it in years, although I have like bootleg rule version provided by.
Yes. Can confirm it's still good.
Yes, and sometimes when you want light. Things like that, just go light. Get that, process the system. Let's see. Since I'm writing a module now, yes, I took the Base Plus 2 engine that I did for hybrids, and I've been licensing it limited.
Ooh.
So that to keep it a independent, compatible system where the main block changes, but any powers vary with how powers work in your universe. And Jody McPhee, who I do have your long form commercial, I will see if I can edit your new version down to something that will fit, or it will be something that will be run once in a very, very blue moon. But he does Amazonian Wrestling Federation, which is an all-female superpowered wrestling league.
Neat.
So he asked for, and I took this and we made a brawler engine. I gave full character sheets for like 26 different wrestlers, and the thing holding him back is he keeps working on this module. And the thing is, make the module a second. Joe, please listen to me and tell me if you have the full core rules for a wrestling game and you want to write a module with a specific set of things. If you want to do that, fine. But get the first version, because he actually sent me one that was polished. He could have hit print. Get that out there. Make the money. Do the module as an expansion if you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
But they remember that's a wrestling game is going to be most likely a drop in, one shot thing. Some people are going to do full careers out of it, and that's awesome. But you have enough to do that. I think you're getting lost in the overthought.
It's the phrase of wrestling is soap operas for men, and like soap operas, you should be able to watch one episode, come back 10 years later, and understand within 5 minutes exactly what's happened.
Exactly. Like I said, it's a neat world, and Joe uses, aside from his line art, he uses DAS 3D, and frankly, it is the most dramatically diverse builds of potential female characters you can imagine. So for your sake, you just need to write the storyline like you'd write a wrestling storyline with one or two modular if they lose scenarios. It doesn't need to be a full programming essay. He's an IT guy. So I've seen that he's thinking too IT, and it's overwhelming him. And I want to see him get his product out. I think he's getting caught in the trying to make something more advanced, more perfect when he's got it there. But
there's a phrase I would give to anyone who's having trouble getting to the execution phase, and it's perfect is the enemy of done.
Yes,
because you can always release edits or errata or apologize for things that didn't quite get fixed up, but there comes a point where the extra effort and time and energy it takes to make something perfect is never going to make you the money on the back end. It's the question I've seen a lot of people ask regarding Onyx Path / White Wolf's books. So they're always like, well, why didn't they just do another 2 to 3 editorial passes? It's because editors cost money and they didn't have that. So it was better to have a janky glossary than to spend another $2,000 making sure that all the text was right.
And anybody who has done formatting is the bane of my existence. And I do image-heavy stuff through KDP. Formatting is the absolute nightmare that I have to fight. I'm actually, Neil knows this. For years I put out, because I think you might have been there when I was challenged to do a microlight version of the RPG I was running. And I said, I can do it. And I did it on one page. I got it all fit. And I might even have a copy on one side of a page. I thought, well, I've had this for years. It's legal to release.
Yeah, one-page RPGs are very popular, I'm hearing.
And I went to PDF. It's a one-page PDF. Went to Amazon. 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by 11. I make a nice digital cover for it. I put it up. They completely screw the formatting.
Yep.
Nightmarishly. To the point that I'm literally I had to take all the formatting out of the whole thing, and it's now going to be a multiple page document that I have to sit and fight. You have that, but you got to get stuff out. So we have that. Let's see. You die in poverty with no books written and dysentery. Apparently, Oregon Trail has been the answer to that writer's game. Oh, muses can be medics. Okay. They're still working on the writer RPG in the chat. So you have to check.
Classless system. No class. All skill.
Oh, that's my bread and butter. Give me the skill monkey goodness. And I am sorry, when you've been the forever GM long enough, do you want to play a fighter? Not
Absolutely, really. I do.
That depends.
Yeah, it depends entirely on the rest of the information you're about to give me.
You know? Why? I'm a support class. Why? Just, I've been in GM too long. I'm going to run the game from the other side. You know?
You're not wrong.
Oh, God.
Just remembering the cleric, wizard, mystic theurge I did. How many people have you killed? 2 in the whole campaign? Yep. So why are you the MVP? Because without me, everyone dies.
They tried to force me into a 5th ed game.
Mm.
I'd been running a game for about 6 months online. It's actually a really neat in a campaign that's going to be coming out. Like, make a 10th level character.
Okay.
Like, okay, 5th ed 10th level. I made Gizmo Glitch, who, if you ever want to talk to, he has his own Twitch account. Not Twitch, Twitter.
As you should.
Gizmo_Glitch. I'm not kidding.
I never thought you were.
If you want game advice or mechanical advice from a deranged gnomish artificer, he does exist free form in the universe. But I broke the DM that was going to run it because I took all my infusions and I fixed every problem every other player had tactically with the infusions, and he thought you made all the stuff, your characters could be overpowered. I'm like, none of it's for me. Oh wait, no. The pew pew laser gun that does 1d4 and has infinite ammo, that's for me in case everything else goes wrong. I'm putting returning on it. It's not a thrown weapon. Returning never said it had to be. What? Oh no, they've taken all my weapons. Okay, I'm in prison. Okay. Pew! I have my pew pew gun. This is why I have returning on my pew pew gun. But I ended up handing everything out, breaking the game. I love being a support character. I can't mainline it. And I think that comes from DMing too much. Because when you've been the world, what does one character feel like? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm the only one who has that feeling.
It feels refreshing, but then again, I don't actually like game mastering. I just do it because I look around, everyone's like, "No, we really want to play." I'm like, if I run something good enough and long enough, the DMing bug will bite someone else, and then I can hand them the hat.
Well, and the problem why I have the fixation on light games is I just have to DM with no warning. It's not like, hey, you want to run a game? Yeah, okay. Well, next month? No, it's like, hey, we're all together. Nick, run a game.
How about 20 minutes? What is wrong with you people?
Okay, that's 10 more than I need. I better have snacks right here. But
the complexity of what you need is directly proportional to how much time you give me to have it ready.
Exactly. And it's interesting because I run a monthly game at the library that has anywhere from 8 to 16 players, anywhere from 6 to 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing. My biggest game I ever ran was I had a group of about 6 long time, almost level 15 to 20 old school players that were very beefy. And what we were going to do was one of them, the main, he started out as a filler, was a capitalist drow who was trying to help his city go from being lawful evil, well, chaotic evil, to chaotic capitalist. He was a reverse adventurer, and the only reason he existed was when one of the players couldn't make it, he could fill in.
Sure.
But NPCs happen like that. So the problem with that was eventually Loth got annoyed. So I decided we've got these overpowered characters that were born from a one shot that went on for like many, many years. Maybe it's time to have them go out. We'll go kill Loth and then go kill off again so she stays dead.
Sure. Why not? Go nuts.
We go to Denny's. Every single person invited some friends.
Ah, crap.
And then we picked up people who heard what we were doing, who were eating at the Denny's.
It's going to get a long table is what I'm hearing.
We ended up with the back room and 28 players. Now,
I was an assistant storyteller for a LARP, and even I didn't have that much responsibility.
I have half memory because at least 80% of my brain was console at that moment. You know, you do this, this happens. You do this, this happens. And everybody had a blast. They unfortunately succeeded because my players are smart. And when you get them in large numbers, D&D breaks very quickly, I have learned.
Action economy for the win.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter how many you throw at them. But it made me realize, for the way I have to game, I have to run rules like vast majority of the time. Because I don't trust players to not literally fall out of the walls at this point.
That's fair.
But
I'm just picturing the same scenario, but with Honey Heist. So it's like 30 bears wearing hats pretending to be people. Just running.
Oh, my, you said that in my brain, like, that would be good, or Kobolds Ate My Baby, which is...
That would be fun, too. Less funny, but also fun.
Yeah. Oh, yes. But let's see. Apparently, my chat has decided to make that game a project. I'll hold you to it.
There's another thing you should check out to add into it. It's a simple D6 party game. It's Trapped in a Cabin with Lord Byron.
Yes.
And I would say, like, grab some of that, throw that in there too.
Yes, Nick has all kinds.
Yeah, in the copious amounts of free time we possess. Just become my catchphrase.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
I nearly phased out of my body reading that.
Mm-hmm.
I nearly just because Friday and Saturday is my first 2-day con that I'm working.
Mm-hmm. I still need to go to that one of these years.
If you're not making it this year,
yeah,
because it's the
I will not be. I need time.
No. It's a spiritual successor. I'll tell you if you should come next year. And I hate to put it that way, but a whole lot of people are rebooting it. And I'm excited.
I will always take recommendations.
But and I know 25 is a lot to ask at the door.
Is it a one-day event or is it a whole weekend thing?
It's Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And I think it's like 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. both days.
Yeah.
But it's 25 for one day, 40 for both if you want to get your ticket kind of bundled. Mm-hmm. Plus you get a swag bag. And again, this is a charity gaming convention, so all that money goes to helping veterans. Well, all the profits, they have to pay for the hall and everything. But the Magic pre-release is there. Warhammer's going to be playing. They do the Catan. They forgot the Catan, like worldwide major tournament starts can happen there too.
Nice.
We had a player who I think got $11,000 at the end of the World Catan tournament. I think he won one year when it was Arcticon, and it's many of the same organizers. Carl likes your ad.
Yay!
No, you're fine. Will Army spend different eras? That's a good question for you.
It's going to vary, and this gets into the whole genre thing of what I want to do, hopefully, and this is assuming we can get it funded and there's enough interest from the audience, all those caveats in the way. If everybody shows up and they all throw money at it and everyone demands more, we want more. It starts off very, traditional Army men toys, era of like World War II, 1940s, 1950s, somewhere in there. But what I want to do is with every major supplement I come out with, because I wanted to do like, Army men, Soldiers of Fortune, where it's like now it's, you don't have to be a part of the official armed forces. You can be military contractors. So you can do A-team style games if you want to do something like that. or I
Right.
wanted to do like Army Men Weird War. So now we're getting into like the 60s and 70s, like CIA programs and weird alien technology that we've taken from the little plastic aliens that you find on the top shelf. And
Yeah.
so with each one of those, my hope is to bring in another type of era, another type of genre. I wanted to do one for the Wild West. If we go out to like the frontiers where all of this technology hasn't quite made it out to, because we're not distributing it. So you get out there and you have people who they might not have heard that the Federation is even a thing yet because they don't have telegraph lines out there. They don't have paved roads. They're still riding, their plastic horses with their Civil War era 6-shooters. They still have like the big cannons. And that would be like, in my opinion, I think it would be a fun mix of technology of you have one of the exploratory legions going out there, and now you have to take your very modern equipment, which is very limited in number, and you have to combine it with like the local militia who's still using the 3 shots in 1 minute muskets, fighting off, giant insects and whatever other weirdness is coming out of the forest.
What?
Yeah, there are dinosaurs if you can make it far enough. I eventually want to get to a point where we have like raptor cavalry as an option.
Oh, by all that is good and holy and Dr. McNinja himself, thank you for raptor cavalry.
There will be T-Rexes. I will probably not give them to players. They will be treated more as an environmental issue you have to contend with. And then someone strapped a laser to its head for some reason. I don't know why.
That's so glorious. And
it starts out very silly, and I want it to get even sillier to the point where the comedy comes not from any of the tongue-in-cheekness or any of the jokes. It was just, no, this is a completely bonkers, ridiculous scenario, and we're all taking it completely po-faced.
Yes.
Which is more or less why I like Warhammer 40K. Of like, this is all very stupid. Yes, it is. Now let us treat it with utter sincerity.
Because it's grimdark. It is.
Although I did have a thing I might like to throw in at some point just for ridiculous, and have had the quote-unquote Space Marine option for like the plus-size G.I. Joes.
Oh, yes.
It's like the genetically engineered troopers in the lab somewhere who were like 9 feet tall and all of this indestructible plastic body armor.
Let's see if you see that once you get to... Yep, basically.
Huzzah.
Oh, reminds me... we have a new online store. Excellent. Radio Retro Future on YouTube is Bonsert's channel. I have another ad, but it's kind of long for that. Now that you know to look him up, it's reach out to each other, please.
Absolutely.
You also, another person you should know while I have you here is Dan Hollifield. He runs the Aphelion webzine that's been helping sci-fi authors become best-selling sci-fi authors since the 90s.
Nice.
If you go there, you will find names. Like Larry Niven, great names. So another good person for everyone to know. And Kelly Carlisle has a book you need to read because you are literally her target audience, whether you know it or not. And I love this is how I advertise. You think I'm bad. You guys should be friends.
I love being a target without knowing it. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. You may be a literary mercenary, but I'm a marketing assassin. It is called, and I just pulled that out of nowhere. I'm proud of that one.
That's shiny.
But it is called the Rembrandt Stratagem, which it's mostly covered here. So let me lose her thing. The Paranormal Files of Bishop Kincaid. Think a two-fisted pulp detective, Dr. Fate.
Yes, it looks like what would happen if Fate and the Shadow were caught in a transporter accident, and I'm here for it.
Yes, in pulp demi-steampunk Ravnica.
All right.
You
made your sale. You can stop.
Stop.
I need to check that out. I need to check that out along with the Dane Curse books. I've been meaning to give those a look too.
Yes. And I gotta find where I was in the comments.
Yes.
Because I know I'm ultra way behind.
These things, they do happen.
Let's see. Do that. Because I do try to hit my comments. Superman is only interesting when he's forced to be more human than humans on the planet. Yep. Thanks for being here, Dawn. Don Doulos is a great person to know for promotion because you've successfully promoted a lot of stuff. What's great is we still have 5 active viewers, which for nearly 2 hours on a Wednesday during the work day is really good.
Remember, everybody, watch at work.
A lot of people do, actually. That's part of why we're safe for work. Was looking into Blades in the Dark. That is a great thing I should have thought of. And Gertz now looking to stuff. Bound for the Sticks is bound. Okay, awesome.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, many books. Okay, we've got Call of Cthulhu, definitely, but Delta Green. No, Delta Green is not. It may also be a board game.
But I think there is a board game release for it, but no, it's a full RPG.
Oh, you're okay. You have a game dev. That's fine. Talking to Neil is always a good. And is the Neil show now? Kind of, yeah. Stepped away from computer, thinking I was wrapping up. So, okay. I rolled to seduce the T-Rex.
Yeah, I appreciate your bravery. Your name will live on in memory.
And all I can say is this: well, Nat 20, you succeed, and he is very happy to see you. But with that little bit of abject mind horror, we have gone nearly 2 hours. Thank you, folks. I know I normally run a lot more ads, but when I have the privilege of a guest, I want to focus on the guest. And the show almost always runs late when I have guests. That's why I do it on Wednesday, so it doesn't tromp on other people's shows.
That's fair.
Yes, okay. Wow, I just got a notification that Kobold Press is up to something. Thank you. Oh, and sticker.
The Black Flag game they've been talking about?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've been following a lot of that shock gasp horror. But Neil, where can folks get a hold of you? Where can they get your stuff?
I am fairly easy to find on social media for folks who want to reach out to ask questions or talk about things. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter if you trust that thing as it's going down. I can be found on Discord, but I really prefer not to be. As far as my work, you can get my novels on Amazon. Almost, if not all of my RPG content is on DriveThruRPG right now, including the first piece I ever wrote as a developer, which was a short story for Paizo on the Pathfinder Tales many years ago. Army Men is, of course, on Kickstarter. It's in pre-launch, but subscribe to that, and it'll let you know when things are going up. The Azakale Games YouTube channel has a lot of the videos and content that I make. If you like audio dramas, or you just want to see more of my face and listen to me talk about the weird settings I make and the strange stuff I get up to.
Okay. Well, you'll be hearing a lot more from Neil as I get his ads out and more. Guys, thank you so much for a great program. I have to promote that this Friday in Maryville, Indiana, is RegionCon 2023. Friday and Saturday, we are going to definitely... I'm going to be there the whole time and then some. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to be running Big Stompy Robots. I probably will be running a very small, very select RPG yet to be decided. Because I usually run some kind of one shot at that campaign.
Run Honey Heist.
a lot of
Make
times,
it happen.
a lot of times it's procedurally generated. But if I remember, I may just throw bears and hats at people in some campaign setting that does not need it.
Civil War era Honey Heist.
Ooh. Napoleonic Honey Heist. Anyway.
Yes.
With that, guys, thank you for letting us have this wonderful opportunity to showcase somebody kind of new to a lot of you, well known to me. Please, Neil is looking to get his stuff out there, so if you have shows, reach out to Neil. I want us all to be sick of him for a while, because that means he will have gotten his message out. I only back interesting stuff. I only promote interesting stuff. And because I don't get paid for it, I could be like, yep or nope. So, yeah, it has to be integrity. I'm not being bribed.
I just had a moment of picturing you launching into a Raid Shadow Legends commercial right after saying that.
I actually have, it's funny you say that. Well, I have a line of merch planned for the long-standing shtick where I inform people, remember, I'm not sponsored by Game Shady Stories. Yes, Game Shady Stories that it interrupts everything you do. So I'm going to eventually make a whole line of Game Shady Story, not sponsored by Game Shady Stories. That's something that's going to come out. But are you involved?
I want to know when that comes out. That sounds great.
Are you involved with the Independent Creator Directory yet?
I have not heard of it, so no.
Okay. The Independent Creator Directory is a new website that hosts creatives, puts all their links in one place. The goal is to have a place where you can be found, people can direct communicate without having to worry, because what happens is so often somebody will share the wrong thing on your Facebook and you can't contact anybody through Facebook for however many days that the bots decide. Ditto with Twitter, whatever. And so many people are being deplatformed. Sometimes it's, oh, you're too liberal this way. Oh, you're too conservative that way. We don't care about any of that.
Yeah, you use the wrong keywords.
Exactly. Or they just literally can't process a joke. So the Independent Creator for $10 is a one-time payment. Right now it's $10. It's going to go up to 20 soon. So, where you have a web page presence, access to a calendar where all the events are going on, and you can promote your stuff. It's run by Joe Bachman, one of the best people on the freaking planet. He does actually sponsor this program because he pays for my StreamYard. But I don't trust lightly. And he's actually going to be at RegionCon on the other booth that's conveniently I've paid for, so that he's right there doing the Burning is Love. So you can buy his wood burning things for the people who've been watching that. But reach out to him if you're a creator of anything, because we need to be able to find people without having to navigate a bunch of BS. So really, INDIECD.org. Everyone should be doing this that we know. Yeah, do that. Thank you, Johnny. You should be on there, but you don't charge for your work nearly often enough. That's Johnny. Johnny Cage. He's an amazing South American artist, and apparently quite the footballer too. But with all that, I'm getting distracted. We've been on for 2 hours. Neil has far more important things to do than this show. So guys, keep writing, keep creating, because you can always edit it. You can fix it. You can't edit a blank page. I will see you. Hopefully, I will be able to broadcast live sometime Friday. I don't make promises because it's teching me on the road. But definitely Monday for another Nevermind the Furthermore. And come see me at RegionCon. You guys have a wonderful night. Toodles. Let's